Hi guys, this is Editing Ronan at the top of the episode again. I haven't done one of these in a couple of weeks. We've actually been doing quite well. There aren't any audio issues this time. We just pronounced the name of a few actors incorrectly throughout the episode, and I wanted to put that right at the top. Firstly, we mispronounced the name of the actor that's been cast as the 14th Doctor. The actor is called Ncuti Gatwa. We also refer to Michelle Yeoh as Sandra Oh a few times throughout the podcast. I don't know what we were thinking there, but when we say that, we're referring to Michelle Yeoh. And we struggle to pronounce the name of the actress that plays America Chavez in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Apart from that, this is our longest episode yet, so I hope you enjoy.
Hi there, welcome back to That's Wizard. My name's James. This is Ronan, my special guest.
I'm a special guest. The special is that I'm the second host of this podcast every week.
They don't know that.
They might not have listened to the previous two episodes. You're right, James. I am a special guest. This is my first time on the podcast, and you're going to treat me like a special guest.
I am. You're special to me.
That's really cute.
That is pretty cute. How are you today?
I'm really good, James. I mean, we had a podcast last week, but I haven't seen you since last week because you didn't turn up to our class. No. This week, so
I was busy. I was driving all the way to England. It's such a trek.
All the way to England.
I should be more specific. Lincolnshire.
Do you know where that is?
Yeah, it's about a 3-4 hour drive.
Could you point to it on a map?
No.
You just drove north until you saw some signs.
Oh, thank God for sat-nav. Honestly, I'd be lost about it, quite literally.
Honestly, it's only like 3 motorways. It's a really simple journey.
Although I didn't realise we had an expert.
You were talking to me last week as if you were travelling to Mordor to throw the ring in Mount Doom. But really, you were going maybe 200 miles up north.
About 200 miles. Oh God! To be fair, it was really hot as well, so I felt like I was in Mordor, yeah. And that leads us right on to our topic of today, the movie review.
Today we're talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness.
We'll get onto that later. We're going to have a normal section and then a spoilers section. Strange in the Multiverse of Madness later on.
So we're going to go through our spoiler section now. We're going to go to our famous MUSE section.
Our famous MUSE section, because I was Josh Safdie's MUSE when he wrote Uncut Jams.
Uncut Jams. I wonder how many times the listeners are going to hear this going, oh, they're bringing this joke in again.
Every week we're going to talk about Uncut Jams or listen to the band MUSE, because that's what
listen to
the band. Yes,
because they're a terrific band. They had some good songs.
But we are going to go into our MUSE section.
Lay it on me.
And when I was writing the MUSE this morning, James, I was going, there's not a lot of MUSE. And subsequently, there's been quite a lot of MUSE today. So I was going through it, and there were lots of set photos and posters. So there were set photos for Thor that comes out 2 months or so from now. So there were some photos of Jane and Thor in their costumes for that movie. There were lots of actual posters for movies. There was a Buzz Lightyear poster. There were lots of trailers, and I got a couple of trailers listed on here, but only the ones we're particularly interested in.
I'm looking forward to Thor, to be fair. We spoke about it last week as well.
I didn't think we needed to talk about costume photos.
No, that's the thing, no.
And there was casting for Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, but again, that was just casting.
They're making another one, aren't they?
They're making a Netflix series, and they cast, as Percy Jackson, they cast the little kid that was in that Ryan Reynolds film quite recently.
Yes, I remember we talked about this.
Something.
Yes, from...
What's the film called? I watched this film a month and a half ago.
I can't remember.
Could not tell you a thing about it.
I just know time traveling.
Adam Project.
Hey.
We got that at the same time. That's really cool. But we do have some news today, and like I said, subsequently, there's been some pretty big news. While we were watching Doctor Strange, they announced the next Doctor Who, which is very exciting. I was going to list a few of the things that I have.
We're already on the Doctor Who one. Why don't we just talk about that?
Well, I was just going to say, today's MUSE, we're going to talk about Doctor Who. There is some Fast 10 MUSE. There's some Jackass news. There's some Wallace and Gromit MUSE. And there's some extra bits sprinkled in.
Just to point out, for those of you who don't know, MUSE means movie news and all types of...
Did we not say that today?
Media news. No, that's the thing. I was a bit... just in case they didn't.
Our loyal listeners know what we're talking about. It's
Thank you, loyal listener.
What do they call it when they mush two words together like brunch? Is it onomatopoeia? Is that what that is?
I'm not sure, but I get what you mean. Yeah, kind of.
There is a word for it, but I'm not clever enough to know what that word is. But like I said, they've cast the new Doctor Who, and it is Ncuti Gatwa, who I did have to look up some pronunciation for that, and I think I'm saying it right. But if anyone thinks I'm not, then you can shout at us in the comments. Ncuti Gatwa has been cast as Doctor Who number 14, the 14th Doctor.
It will be in context the second black person to play a Doctor Who.
Well, that was the big article. Was he was the first person of colour to play the Doctor, or the article said the lead role.
Lead role.
But in the last 3 series of Doctor Who, they Joe Martin has played a doctor known as the Fugitive Doctor, and Joe Martin is a black woman who has been on Holby City, I think.
Don't know, never.
I think it's either Holby City or Casual or one of those type of shows, and Joe Martin's a regular, and she came on and she did maybe 3-4 episodes of the last 2 series of Doctor Who.
She does. I remember an episode where she just comes in and she surprises and meets the other Doctor, and she carries a gun with her as well.
Yeah, she is the Fugitive Doctor being chased down by the Jadoon. We're not going to talk about the State Doctor who is in, because Kuti Ann was taking over as the lead role when Jodie Whittaker leaves after her. Next, she has one more episode, then there's the 60th anniversary, and I don't know at which point.
Do you reckon there'll be... When is this? Would it be on like a New Year's special?
It is November 2023.
Well, that's ages away.
Yeah, but she has one, which is November this year, 2022, and then the next episode is November 2023.
So they're going to have a gap year.
There's a whole year where they're not. Russell T Davies is current. If you don't know, I don't know how well versed in the news of Doctor Who our listener is, but I pay a lot of attention. Russell T Davies is coming back for next series. Russell T Davies wrote Doctor Who from the revival series 1 through to series 4, and there were some specials after that he wrote. Right. Russell T Davies is great. If you've not seen his work, he did Queer as Folk 20 years ago. There's a very English scandal that he did with Ben Whishaw and Hugh Grant, which is really great.
Do you like Hugh Grant?
He did Years and Years, which is a kind of post-apocalyptic thing, but it's a very kind of political show. And he did another show really recently called It's a Sin.
It's a Sin.
It's called It's a Sin, and it's got Ollie Alexander, who I was expecting to take over as the Doctor.
And what shows is this? How do you pronounce his name again?
Kuti Gatwa.
Kuti Gatwa playing.
He's been... Obviously, Sex Education, that's where most people will know him from. He's been in all 3 series of that so far. Okay. And I think they've just finished... Or maybe they haven't started series 4 of that. I'm not too sure. They're definitely casting for series 4 of that.
Okay.
And he's like 2nd or 3rd lead, so I'd imagine he'd still be in that.
So he's quite well known in that regard then. He's been on big shows. Sex Education, big on Netflix.
It is a huge show, Sex Education, but I don't think it's huge with people outside of our age demographic. So I don't know that older people will know.
That being said, I actually never watched Sex Education.
Whatever happens, James, I'm really excited to see where Russell T Davies goes.
Overall, I'll watch the first... Like what I did with the current Doctor.
Jodie Whittaker.
I watched the first season, and then I just kind of dropped off and never really caught on. I never found that hook. It never got me on that hook. So what I'll do is end up watching the first couple of episodes or season, see where it takes me. Hopefully I'll enjoy it. Hopefully it'll draw my attention back in. As you said, if Russell T Davies come back, maybe he'll be able to ignite that passion and fire I used to have for David Tennant.
Because you were such a huge Doctor Who nerd back in the day. I remember sitting in media studies and you were just listing different types of Daleks in my ear.
That is not true.
I 100% remember this.
I hope they don't believe that.
They should believe that, because that is 100% true, whether you remember it or not.
That is not true.
100% true. You're going, there's Dalek Sec, there's the Dalek Emperor, there's Dalek Supreme, and you are listing them off and you're going, am I forgetting any? Obviously, there's the one that has the plates turkey off the back in Daleks of Manhattan, obviously.
If I don't get them all, I'm going to kill myself. OMG.
We spoke a little bit last week about fasten your seatbelts.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember if I made that joke last week. It's actually quite a clever joke.
I always forget the jokes. I saw that online as well.
We reported that Justin Lin had left Fast and Furious, and we assumed they'd just say creative differences. They didn't just say creative differences.
What did they say?
Justin Lin reportedly quit Fast X, which is what it's called. It'd be cool if they did Fast Triple X and Vin Diesel's character met Xander Cage. And it was like Multiverse of Madness with 2...
Or 50 Cent in there as well. Not 50 Cent, Ice Cube.
Well, Ice Cube's an anti-vaxxer, so he's not allowed on film sets at the moment.
Oh, is he not?
Yeah. There's a lot of Ice Cube stuff going on. But apparently, Justin Lin's been reported as saying, Diesel shows up late to set, he doesn't know his lines, and he shows up out of shape. That's the quote, which says that there's a little bit
of a beef going on.
There's a little bit of tension on set.
Maybe the beef between Vin Diesel and The Rock was of Vin Diesel's fault then.
That was always the vibe I got, is Vin Diesel was really self-conscious that The Rock was like 3 times bigger than him. I don't know. I think Vin Diesel's probably a little bit controlling and domineering in this franchise specifically because he cares a lot about it. But Justin Lin should also care quite a lot about this franchise as well. I mean,
that's where he made his name from.
It's where he made his name. He's directed how many of these now? 4, 5? He did 3, 4, 5, 6.
Who did the first one?
F. Gary Gray.
Oh.
No, maybe? I think so. I think it's F. Gary Gray. If people, I'm trying to up engagement on our show, so if people know that I'm wrong, shout at me in the comments.
I can't wait to see what the plotline is about, because they're all just
they're getting more and more insane. But they've replaced him with a new director.
Louis Leterrier
has officially replaced Justin Lin as the director of Fast X. I didn't know who that was, so I had a little Google. Louis Leterrier, I looked up, and has directed a few things that you and I have both seen. He directed the first and second Transporter, actually.
Love that franchise. Jason Statham, fantastic.
I mean, you say that franchise. The first one's really good. I couldn't tell you what happens in the other ones.
Second one, you get something attached to his arm, like a car. Was that the
That's
third
the third one.
That's the third.
The second one, doesn't he go to LA and there's a bomb on the bottom of... When I remember bad films, I remember one scene.
It's the one with the kid. The kid gets kidnapped.
Is there a bomb on the bottom of a car, and then he does a kind of corkscrew,
and
then he hooks it in a dock, and then it pulls the bomb off the bottom of the car with the hook?
Some Fast and Furious stuff there.
Honestly, maybe that's why they've got this guy. They saw that one scene and gone. But he did. The Incredible Hulk, which isn't a very good film.
Is that the one with
Edward
Norton?
Which isn't great.
He didn't get along with Russell.
Edward Norton took over control of that as well. What happened? What do we do if this guy also falls out with Vin Diesel, and Vin Diesel wants control over this guy, and this guy leaves as well?
We'll probably just bring in another director. Who's the producer or the company?
I'm not too sure. It's Universal. Maker.
So yeah, as I was saying, Universal didn't seem like the type of company to be quite controlling over their directors, and like what we're talking about with Disney.
Yeah, but Universal are be quite worried right now, because currently the whole production is on hold, and it's costing them roughly $1 million a day to keep the production on hold. Because they're paying actors not to work.
Directors probably as well.
While they were looking for a director, they were holding the production. Just really quickly, I'll list off some more stuff that he's done. He did the Clash of the Titans remake.
Oh, the one with the guy...
Sam Worthington.
That's who his name is. I like him. He's a good actor.
And he did the first Now You See Me.
Oh, he really did?
Yeah, which I think is also quite a good
terrific film.
That's also something I hadn't seen much of before. A kind of magician film rather than a
where they
magic
focused
film.
on antic and like the trickery. It was quite good, actually.
I really like the first.
A good magician film is The Prestige. I really enjoyed that. It's got Batman.
It's got. Were you going to refer to
Wolverine.
people as Batman and Wolverine and
also Alfred?
And Alfred, I'm thinking David Bowie plays Nikola Tesla in it, doesn't he?
Yes. That's
actually a really good film. That's Christopher Nolan. That's really long though.
Well, it's such a good twist ending as well. It turns out he had a twin all along.
I mean, you should have said spoilers before you said that.
It's an old movie.
You should have all have seen The Prestige. There is homework for this podcast. You should already have seen The Prestige.
Yeah, if you don't, get out.
If you haven't seen every film ever made, you shouldn't be listening to this.
But please come back.
Just really quickly, while we're on the subject of Fast and Furious, this is kind of tangential, but that's a
big word.
That's a good word,
That's a good word.
There is a Jason Statham film that I found a little bit of a bio for.
Okay.
All right, and I think you'll find this funny, right? Jason Statham is set to star in The Beekeeper, directed by David Ayer, who did Suicide Squad, but more importantly did Training Day with Denzel Washington, Ethan Hawke. And there's a little bio for this film, right? The film is described as an action thriller steeped in the mythology of beekeeping. Is that not the funniest sentence you've ever heard?
The mythology.
The myth steeped, as if there's so much mythology in beekeeping that you can't even climb to the top.
I hope there's somebody screaming in the comments going, of course there's a lot of beekeeping mythology.
I hope there's like communities of beekeepers that start attacking us on the internet. But I thought that was funny, and I thought I'd just mention that really quickly.
Which leads me on to the next bit, where Jason Statham's coming out with a new film with Guy Ritchie.
It's called Operation Fortune.
Operation Fortune.
And the actor going to help someone that is a bad guy is Josh Hartnett.
I'm looking forward to that. I do like Guy Ritchie stuff.
I think we said last week that this is no longer on any billings to come out in the cinema anytime soon.
Oh, why not?
I think it's been pushed back to separate it from the Nicolas Cage one. Because the Nicolas Cage one has a unique selling point, which is Nicolas Cage is playing Nicolas Cage, whereas this doesn't have that selling point.
Cage.
Sorry, wouldn't this be This would have that selling
That
point
would
if
be
Josh Hartnett was playing Josh Hartnett,
Hartnett.
but he's not. He's
the dude playing another dude playing another dude.
exactly. I mean, that's what both of these movies are. A Team America, aren't they? Really?
No, it's not Team America. It's Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, that quote was Tropic Thunder.
Tropic
But I was thinking in Team America they get an actor
To then
to
dress it,
infiltrate.
yeah.
So that's what these films are.
They're all, so forget all of them. Just watch Tropic Thunder and Team America. That's all
You
you
don't
need.
need to watch the Nicolas Cage film from last week, and you don't need to watch Operation Fortune. Just watch Tropic Thunder and
Team America.
Team America World Police.
Oh, that's so good. What else is on there? You got a whole list.
The next few we're just going to skim through because there's lots of short ones, which is basically just Cobra Kai trailer.
Well, they brought us season 5 trailer already.
There's a season 5 trailer coming out today.
I kind of I dropped season 4. Like I really enjoy. It's like the thing about Cobra Kai. I remember watched the first 3 seasons. It's super cringe, and you love it because it's really cringe. And I would say it brings back nostalgia.
But also the cringe wears off by season 5,
That's
presumably, right?
The cringe wore off for me on season 3. I was like, okay, this is cool and all, but it's just kids pretending like they know how to fight.
There was Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has wrapped production this last week.
So that means the trailer should be coming out soon.
Well, the film doesn't come out for another year, so probably
Probably.
not another 6 months until the trailer. There was a trailer for Amazon Prime's Paper Girls, which is based off a Brian K. Vaughan comic. Do you remember I showed you there was a big paperback in Forbidden Planet? And Brian K. Vaughan recently started up writing Saga again.
I remember.
Brian K. Vaughan, who is a famous comic book writer, took a break from his long-running series Saga. He's on like issue 58 or something of that now. But he took like a 3, 4, 5 year break to write Paper Girls, and Amazon Prime have just made a Paper Girls, and there was a trailer for that this last week. There was a trailer for Weird, which is the Weird Al biopic starring Daniel Danger Radcliffe as Weird Al Yankovic. I don't know if you've seen the trailer, but
I'm actually looking forward to. No, I haven't, but that'll be good to listen.
I like Weird Al. I know you like Weird Al.
I like some of his songs. I also like Daniel Danger Radcliffe.
We're big fans of Daniel Danger Radcliffe after episode 1. He did a good job in that film. And Weird Al's great. I mean, Amish Paradise. Name some good. Just Eat It. Eat It's his famous
just
one.
Eat it. Just eat it.
Weird Al's got some famous songs, but really quickly, right at the end here, there's a new Jackass series in the works at Paramount Plus.
Who's performing in it?
I tried to find this out in the article. I think it's the proper Jackass people.
So you remember when we watched the Jackass film that recently came out?
We didn't review that on the podcast.
No, we didn't. But there was 2 new, or there was actually a whole
There were a
group
handful
of
of new ones.
Yeah, they introduced them in the film about these are the people who's going to take over, and I reckon these new people then.
Do you reckon that's what it is?
Yeah, I reckon it's going to be those new people. But I reckon Steve-O and Knoxville will be there, but more as they won't perform as many stunts. They will kind of be like
they just introduce the stunts. They'll just be there laughing from the side.
Or laughing from the side. Maybe perform every stunt now and then. Stuff that isn't because they're getting old now. But I can imagine Steve-O.
If what you're saying is right, that means this series was planned. They said if this film is successful, we're going to make a series, and we can't have you guys do that because you're old men now. So we'll bring in a handful of new people in this movie, introduce them ready for a new Jackass series. And we said when I watched that, that's what they should have done originally, is to just have like a rotating roster of people in Jackass, so that it would. Because it never had to end, really. You could just keep bringing in new people.
Who doesn't love watching people hurt themselves?
Really quickly, there's John Woo is set to direct a reimagining of his own film, The Killer, for Peacock. And the reason I thought this was interesting is because he's remaking one of his own films.
That's quite new,
which is rare. Hitchcock did a version of The Man Who Knew Too Much in the 30s and then remade it in the 50s. But it's something that doesn't happen very often. No. Sometimes, I can't think of an example, but sometimes like a foreign director will make a foreign language film and then direct the English language remake. Yeah. But I don't think that's what this is. But John Woo is a Chinese director, so maybe it is.
That happened in... there was a free-running movie that was made in France, and they did one with Paul Walker.
District 13, and the Paul Walker remake is called I was going to say Attack the Block, but it's something like that.
It is something like that, yeah. And it's literally the same, because I remember watching the free-running scene thinking this looked familiar, because I didn't realise they were the same.
I think the lead actor is the second lead in the Paul Walker one.
So, yeah, the lead actor in the original French movie is returned for the Paul Walker remake one, and they have some of the exact same stunts. Like you could see frame by frame see it. It's just literally set in a different location. It'll be different scenery.
David Bell is the free runner from the original, and he comes in, and I'll find it's called Brick Mansion. And there's a sequel. I didn't know there was a sequel.
I didn't know there was a sequel.
District B13. Couple more bits of news. Ben Whitehead will star as the new voice of Wallace in the new Wallace and Gromit film. Peter Sellers is leaving.
Why is he leaving?
Because he's an old man, James. This Ben Whitehead has actually been voicing Wallace for the last 10 plus years in video games and shorts, and they did a series called Cracking Inventions where Wallace and Gromit do some adventure. They say this is a cool invention or whatever. He's actually been voicing Wallace for at least the last 10-15 years when Peter Sellers didn't want to do it. So it's not actually such a big step up as I thought it was going to be. I like Wallace and Gromit. I mean, whenever they make a new Wallace and Gromit, I watch it because they normally come out around Christmas.
They're quite funny as well.
They're really well written.
Even
they
if
don't
they
come
don't
out very often.
Even when there's not even that much talking, there's a scene I remember where Gromit is on a train track and he's having to lay the tracks in front of him.
That's really cool, isn't it?
It's a really good scene.
In the wrong trousers. Am I a nerd for knowing Wallace and Gromit?
Onto our next bit of news then, if you will.
They're developing a Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake.
A game or
a game, not the movie. I did make a note of that because that's also what the movie's called. Right? Yes. With Jake Gyllenhaal.
I liked the film. But,
I liked the film too.
But it didn't do very well. But I also really liked the games as well. The games were like They were Assassin's Creed. I don't know if you ever played Assassin's Creed.
I played a lot of Assassin's
Creed. Have you ever played Prince of Persia?
I played a little bit of Prince of Persia.
It was Assassin's Creed before Assassin's Creed. There was running on walls, doing backflips on it.
It's actually really interesting that you mentioned Assassin's Creed because the news is that the remake of Prince of Persia Sands of Time has been moved so that the leading of development is taking place with Ubisoft Montreal, who make Assassin's Creed. I don't know who made the original Prince of Persia. Presumably, if this is news, not Ubisoft. As Ubisoft have proven themselves to be good at this type of game. Well, I say good. Some Assassin's Creed games are good.
Some of them were a bit dodgy. The originals are the best.
The best one is actually Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. Because it's barely an Assassin's Creed game. It's just a pirate game, and it's so good.
My favourite one is the original with Altair.
I haven't played that since my PS3 or whatever it was, so that's a long time ago. Just one little bit of news before we go into our quick Moon Knight review, because Moon Knight finished.
Oh, we did.
But really quick, I saw some news that Morbius is set for digital release next week. Morbius only came out a month ago.
So that's not a good sign.
That's not a good sign for Morbius. I mean, when we watched Morbius, for those of you that don't know, we did a couple of testers for this podcast, and Morbius was the first thing we reviewed on those testers. So that proves that's 5 weeks ago or so, right?
We won't go into too much detail because I'm pretty sure even we've talked about Morbius before on this podcast, and we just
I can't talk about how much I hate Morbius enough, James.
No, you don't hate Morbius, you hate Jared Leto.
That's true, actually. I didn't. Morbius wasn't good, but I hated Jared Leto more.
That's the thing. It wasn't good. I don't mind Jared Leto.
You love Jared Leto.
I
love that he sees girls that are way too young for him. Allegedly, please don't sue him.
Apparently is like 50 or something. The dude looks good for his age.
But that's that. Do you want to go on to the Moon Knight review?
So on to Moon Knight. I remember last week we were talking about Moon Knight. Now we didn't want to do a full review until all episodes come out.
I think last week all we mentioned was the hippo. Honestly.
Oh yeah, because we didn't want to. Overall, Oscar Isaac, fantastic. I actually really enjoyed Moon Knight.
There's so much of a difference between the three characters.
The three characters. If spoilers, if you didn't watch the last episode, he's got a third personality.
Jake Lockley.
It was good. I really liked that. The main villain, he's good. I'm going to say he because I know the God is technically the main villain, but you hardly see him.
In real life, God is also the main villain.
But we hardly see the God also.
Also in real life, we don't see him that much. He turned up 2,000 years ago and then he went away.
I really liked it though. Well, what about you? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was alright.
It was alright.
So in the promotional material, there was a big purple laser that came out of the pyramid. And I wanted the big purple laser because that's proper Marvel heritage.
They did do the purple laser. He went.
There was like a light that came out of it, but I wanted a laser that came from the top of the pyramid into the sky, like like superhero movies used to have. When superhero movies were good, there would just be a big laser that went into the sky. And
From
that
a
was
tower,
from a
open
tower.
a portal.
Sometimes it would be like a crack in the ground and there'd be a laser. There would always be a laser that went into the sky.
Or laser coming down from the sky, like Independence Day.
Exactly, right? I don't mind which, but there wasn't a laser in this
It was
properly.
just a beam of light.
Because it was in the promotional material. The fact there wasn't a laser, it ruined the whole show.
Overall, Moon Knight good, no laser bad.
Is that our review?
Yeah.
Moonlight bad, because no laser.
Moon Knight bad, no laser.
Moonlight bad, no laser.
I didn't have much else to say. I thought it was interesting.
I thought it was nice that it, a little bit like my taking from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which we'll go on to just in a second, I liked that it didn't bring in too much from the outside Marvel universe. I saw an article earlier today, or like a tweet actually. I say article to make myself seem more intelligent. I saw a tweet that was like there were talks to have, because the Eternals are gods, there were talks to have some of the Eternals in Moon Knight and things like that. And I thought, I'm so glad they didn't, because Moon Knight works really well on its own.
Yeah.
And they were talking about Moon Knight being like a 6-episode limited series. The end of this show 100% suggests to me that it's not going to be just a 6-episode limited series. They'll go for a series 2.
They'll probably do, but I remember we talked about it before, and then they might not.
I think it'd be nice to just 6 episodes and done. There are thousands of Marvel characters, and you could do that with so many.
They should do
that
with,
more
like,
often.
with DC as well. I'd like to see some 6-episode spin-offs of characters.
Like Peacemaker.
If we compared the two, the Peacemaker was even better than Moon Knight. I absolutely...
Peacemaker was a lot of fun.
Peacemaker
was a lot of fun, but I did enjoy. They're two very different shows.
They're two very different shows.
And you've got nothing else to say?
I just really liked
Ethan Hawke's great. There was
Ethan Hawke is great.
The lady friend, she had a superhero identity.
I liked how Oscar Isaac can play 3 different characters and play them so beautifully different.
They feel like different characters.
They feel like different actors have played them.
Did you understand what happened at the end when he went back into the psychiatrist ward in the end?
I didn't really understand, but I kind of just let that play along with it.
Yeah.
I like the mystery.
I didn't really get it at the end, but that's because I'm an idiot, so...
I'm not going to disagree with that.
You should, if you haven't seen Moon Knight, we've spoiled most of it on this show, but yeah.
Also, apparently, Peacemaker as well, which you should also go see.
We haven't spoiled Peacemaker. There's some big cameos at the end of Peacemaker that we haven't spoiled.
It's so good.
I like Peacemaker. Peacemaker was good. We should mention that we want this podcast to be PG-13, and that means we only get...
You got to stop saying Peacemaker.
We only get 1 F-word per podcast. I've said piss a lot. I don't know how many pisses we get.
I think you get a few pisses.
We get an unlimited pisses and shits?
I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say a few. Yeah, we'll just go with it.
We get 1 F, unlimited piss and shit. How many C's? No C's?
No C's if we're keeping this PG-13. No C's.
So that's the end of the Muse. We'll go straight onto our movie section. We're going to introduce it.
What we watched? Yeah, we watched Doctor Strange 2.
Is that what it's called? It's called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Exactly.
That's my audiobook reading voice. I could do audiobooks.
You're almost as good
Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun.
Which is a...
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes, you know.
Honestly, the fact that I can quote the first 3 pages or so of the Hitchhiker's...
You can quote the whole 3 pages.
Please don't ask me to do that right
I'm
now.
not going to. That seems like a total waste of my time.
It's honestly 5 minutes of audio footage. I got bored once and I just recorded myself doing it, but I can...
When you go to acting and you have
That's
to do a
my monologue.
monologue, is that actually a monologue?
I could do that as a monologue, yeah. But I think that there's not a lot of inflection in that. It's quite monotone.
You could make it you could do it as much as you want.
Far out in the uncharted backwaters
exactly,
of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun.
There you go. You can have as much.
That could be my monologue.
But moving on, so yeah.
We might cut that. Do you want me to start again?
I kind of enjoyed that.
Alright.
So back onto Doctor Strange now. So overall, we're going to do our spoiler section and non-spoiler section. Non-spoiler section.
You said that like we were going to do the spoiler section
know.
first and then the non-spoiler section. So you've just got to jump in there for like 5 minutes ahead and hope you miss the spoiler section. It's a bit of a gamble.
So first off, we'll talk about our non-spoiler section.
And then we'll go to the spoiler section after.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that'll be clearly marked in the show notes.
Show notes, if you did want to see.
There'll be time codes and you can jump to wherever point.
Absolutely.
If you don't want to listen to what we thought about it and you just want to hear what happens, I guess...
That would be in the spoiler section, though.
Yeah, what happens. You could just jump straight to the spoiler section if you don't care what we think.
Do you want to say your review first, the overall?
I really liked it, James. I mean, I think the biggest criticism of Marvel movies is that they're all very similar. You look at like early origin movies, you look at Thor, you look at Captain America: The First Avenger, you look at Iron Man, you look at Captain Marvel, they're all basically the same movie with a different skin. And I think that can't be said about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It feels like a Sam Raimi horror movie, and I think it's important to say a Sam Raimi horror movie, because going into this, what I'd heard was that it was upsetting Marvel fans and Sam Raimi fans were loving it. And I'm a Sam Raimi fan through and through.
Not a Marvel fan.
Marvel's alright.
I might be in one of the brackets where it might be upsetting Marvel fans, because I don't know why, but I was not thrilled. I mean, I liked it, don't get me wrong. I did enjoy it. It was good.
There are some fantastic scenes.
There are fantastic. Yeah, we'll talk about that. I did like it. But would I categorize it as a top tier Marvel film if we're comparing all the previous Marvel films? No.
Did it feel like a Marvel film to you?
To me, it did.
Did it really?
It did, because I told you
Why
this.
is that?
I had the superhero, quote unquote, overcoming a difficulty or a problem, and he could only do that with an outside source of help, which he did. He overcome that, and once he's overcome that difficulty or problem, he was able to defeat the bad person, as in.
But that's most movies, right?
Most
blockbuster action.
Yeah,
movies.
no, absolutely. Yeah, no, I completely get that. But again, it just never. I did like it though, but it just didn't.
I think it sounds like you didn't like it more than you did. That doesn't make sense.
No, because
I think you did enjoy it.
I did enjoy it. There were really incredible scenes, beautiful, but it's definitely not in the upper echelon of some of the Marvel movies. That's what I think I've been ruined by some of the others. They just didn't.
I also think it wasn't marketed as the movie that it is.
I was going to say this in our spoiler section.
I just want to talk a little bit, because maybe people are just listening to our non-spoiler section to know if they want to go and see this movie or not.
But overall, though, if you do like Marvel films, it's a watch. I would watch it again. You know, if you do like Marvel.
I've seen it twice now.
You've seen it twice. You went in with more analytical views. My first time, yeah, I liked it.
But I think it was marketed as a sequel to Spider-Man No Way Home in a way that it really kind of isn't. Like, they mention Spider-Man a little bit, but there's no real connection.
It's not. If you go in thinking it is a Spider-Man, if you're thinking it's going to follow on from Spider-Man No Way Home,
you could 100% watch this.
You could watch
in
it
isolation.
Yeah, you don't need to watch Spider-Man to watch this. This is a completely separate film to that.
And I think that's I like that as well.
I like that as well. You go in.
But I think people will be disappointed. Like, if you go and go, I love Spider-Man, and I want to see this story of Spider-Man No Way Home continued, which is what the marketing tells you.
The marketing does.
Like, the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, the trailer for this was the post-credits for that, which feels disingenuous to me. It feels like they're saying, if you want to know what happened in the second half of this movie, you need to watch Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But you don't.
No.
And I think that might trick a few people into coming, and they might be disappointed in the movie they get because they're not expecting it. I wasn't expecting the movie we got.
No.
When I go into these things, I don't know what it is about Marvel movies. I don't expect them to be movies. And what I mean by that is I expect them to be events, I expect them to be spectacles, and I expect them to be kind of set pieces and cameos, and you go, I know who that is, I know who this is the big action scene now. This was an actual movie. It had structure, it had character, and it is quite worrying to me a little bit that I don't expect them to have structure and characters when I go into, because a lot of them haven't in certain respects, and that feels a little bit harsh on some of them. I was surprised at how well this worked as a movie, and maybe that's why I think it's considerably different from most Marvel films, because I think it works in isolation. If this wasn't a Marvel movie,
just saw this movie, I would still feel the same. It is just something about it. I think the other movies have just done it again. It just doesn't do it for me as much, but I did like it. Just not in that regard. With regards to the structure and all of that, that didn't bother me. I'll talk more about this in the spoiler section, but it was fast-paced and not like in an action movie fast-paced where you want it to be. Like in a John Wick, for example, I'll use that as an example. John Wick 2 and John Wick the first one go straight into action. That is incredibly fast-paced, but it works for it. I don't think
John Wick's a bit relentless.
Exactly.
And this also
that's the thing. John Wick's incredibly fast-paced. You go straight into action, and that leads it. The whole thing, especially in John Wick 2 and 3, the first couple of scenes of him fighting, I just don't think the pacing worked as well as it could do. It rushed way too fast to meet the main bad guys.
I know what you mean. It felt faster this time to me as well than the first time I saw it, because I wasn't expecting things. So maybe it'd be even faster for you a second time, but I was like, it jumped straight into it, and then it doesn't really stop with the story. You don't get a lot of character moments. There's a little bit. They don't worry too much about... But I could say that the character moments are interwoven into the rest of the story, which would be a positive.
But yeah, overall, though, again, I did like it. Would I go again to watch it? It's very much depending. I don't know. Mixed feelings. Probably not. If I'm gonna gun to my head, I probably wouldn't pay to go see it again. I'll wait until it comes out.
I don't think you have to worry that someone's going to put a gun to your head to go and see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness for a second time.
Well, you never know. People are
if
crazy.
Someone puts a gun to your head and goes,
well,
"You want to see Doctor
watch?
Strange again?" and you go, "Yeah, but I've already seen it."
He's like, "Could you something else, please?"
Could I see... What's the Nicolas Cage one again? Could I see...
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Could I see The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent again, please?
Or the one with Sandra Oh.
Can I see Everything Everywhere All at Once, please?
That's a multiversal film I'm very looking forward to.
That's our next week. We'll talk about that right at the end.
We'll go over to our spoiler section, because there's a few details in it that I feel like might spoil.
And it feels like it's a film that's quite difficult to talk about without spoiling it in a lot of places.
Absolutely. But now we're on to our spoiler section. If you for those lucky people who stuck around all this time.
Well, what people will have done, James, is they'll have gone, I don't know if I want to watch this movie. I'll watch the non-spoiler section. Then I'll decide I want to watch this movie, and then they'll watch the movie, and then they'll come back and listen to the second half of the podcast.
I don't think people are doing that. People are just going to be like, let's just go to the spoiler section.
I think people don't go to the movies until they've heard what we have to say
on
Tuesday or whenever this comes out.
You got a lot of faith in the people there.
There are people waiting with bated breath to see what we think about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Us two nerds in the car, I love it. No, I'll go first. One of the things that is a bit of a spoiler it's not even that much of a spoiler, really. It's do you know the scene I wanted to talk about where they go to the place in the mountains?
There's a name for it, but I couldn't tell you the name.
I couldn't remember it. Where they talk about that place was made years ago, apparently.
Well, the Darkhold was transcribed from the words that are written on
the wall. But what was on the wall was Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
Why was that
Because
there?
the Scarlet Witch isn't just isn't just Wanda Maximoff. The Scarlet Witch is a famous witch, and it's a mantle that's handed down like the Sorcerer Supreme.
Okay.
So she's not.
She's not.
She is Wanda Maximoff, whose job happens to
be
currently be the Scarlet Witch.
Kind of like with Wong and him being the Sorcerer Supreme.
Like Doctor Strange was the Sorcerer Supreme,
but
now it's Wong, and it was Baron Mordo in the other universe.
But that's the thing. They never really explained that.
They did in WandaVision.
They explained it?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're a big nerd, James. No, that's explained better. But did that not make... You've watched WandaVision,
no? Not for a long time now. So
it's more than a year old now. But did that not make as much sense?
No, it didn't.
It's
just like a bit curious as to why that was.
Because it did look like her. The likeness looked like her.
It did, and it's just like, well, to the outside people who haven't watched it, then it's just like it's just randomly in the cave somewhere.
No, I understand the difficulty in it. I think if you choose to look over that bit, it's a really good set.
It's a beautiful set. There's a fighting I wanted to talk about where they use musical notes as weapons. The choreography in that.
That's such an amazing scene.
It's such an amazing fight.
They're fighting with music.
They are fighting with music.
And that's if for some reason you're still listening and you haven't seen the movie, that sounds insane. When I say they're fighting with music, but it makes sense.
It's a lot of sense. There's like no speaking in it. It's just all the fight is being used with musical notes. So you see some
like there's like a stack of paper that comes up with musical notes written on it, and Doctor Strange does some hand wavy stuff, and then they add some lasers on in post, and then the notes come off the page, and then he throws the notes at them, and the like piano notes play when they hit the other Doctor Strange. Question I wanted to ask you: America Chavez talks about our Doctor Strange from Earth 616, which they name drop in this.
They do name drop.
She says that she's met previous Doctor Stranges. We meet one, which is Defender Strange. Who is the other Doctor Strange she's met?
She must have met a lot, though, because she said she's been to 73 universes.
Yeah, but she says she's met 3 Doctor Stranges, including the one she meets in this. The other one is the one that dies at the beginning. Who's the third Doctor Strange?
Maybe she knew that Doctor Strange that was
the one that Blackguard Bolter got killed.
Yeah.
I just thought I wasn't too sure. It didn't look like she'd been to that universe before, though. Maybe.
No. I'm the one that universe was dying. That universe.
Maybe. But is that... I'm asking random questions now because there were bits that I didn't understand, but that's because I'm an idiot. Was the dead universe... That's Doctor Strange from What If. Is that what happened in What If? I don't really remember that episode that well. But are there two Doctor Stranges from different universes and the two universes come together? Is that what happens in that episode?
Well, the Doctor Strange crosses over to another universe and that creates the incursion events.
Yeah. But is that what happens in the What If episodes?
Again, that's such a long time ago, I don't really remember.
You and I, we're
terrible at this.
We don't have great memory for these things.
Overall, there's just some scenes that are absolutely terrific. Again, I also liked the Patrick Stewart.
It would be great if both of them.
Yeah, both of them.
That's what I wanted to say is I went into this expecting it to be cameo after cameo and they just jump from universe to universe. And the reason I thought that is because about a year and a half ago when Sam Raimi came onto this project, and we'll talk about Scott Derrickson leaving later on, but when Sam Raimi joined, Bruce Campbell put on Twitter a one-page scene of him as Ash Williams, and Doctor Strange arrives in like a woods and Ash Williams is there and they speak for like a page and then Doctor Strange leaves. And obviously that was fake to fool idiots like me.
But he's an ice cream guy instead.
Bruce Campbell is in this as a guy selling pizza balls, which is quite funny. He's like Pizza Papa is the
Pizza
character's
Papa.
name probably.
Gets his money.
But I thought that's what I imagine this movie would be. Doctor Strange jumps into a universe, he meets Ash Williams, he jumps into a different universe, he meets Deadpool, he jumps into a different universe, he meets Wolverine.
This will lead on to the thing we were talking earlier, how the marketing takes you one way. As we said, it would take you thinking it'd be a sequel to Spider-Man, but then it turns out
but it also tells you it's going to be a cameo fest.
Yes, it's going.
And there were some surprising
good cameos. We'll list a few of them after.
The Patrick Stewart one was in the trailer.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart was spoiled already. The other ones, again, we'll list them off. But what happens is Wanda, turns evil, should we say. She gets corrupted, and she becomes the main antagonist of the movie. But they don't suggest that.
You have absolutely no idea. And I like that. You don't have any idea that's going to happen. You expect she's going to be helping them throughout the thing, and it's like the three of them jumping through universes.
Or just like cameo.
Or just like a nice cameo, but... She is the main antagonist for this film.
She is the main antagonist, yes.
Which is quite interesting to take someone that was previously a hero in these movies.
It's ambiguous.
Terminator does it the other way around. In the first Terminator, Arnie is the bad guy. In the second, third, fifth, sixth,
he's the good guy.
He's the good guy. In this, they do the reverse. And Wanda she was started off as a bad guy in Age of Ultron. Then she became an Avenger, and then she became a kind of half good, half bad. I feel like such a child going good and bad. Like, people are more complicated than that.
No, she's pretty bad in this. She tries to kidnap. So the protagonist is America.
America Chavez.
No, just the whole of America.
All of America.
No, so the other protagonist is America Chavez. She's an innocent little girl. She can traverse the multiverse.
She punches her way into different universes with this star.
And Wanda wants that power.
So that she can... Again, I think... Then you need to have done homework going into this, don't you, to understand that Wanda has kids from WandaVision, and that's her motivation in this, is that she wants the kids that she lost in WandaVision.
Absolutely.
So you need to have watched however many episodes of WandaVision there are. It feels like you need to have done homework. You need to have watched at least 2 episodes of What If. You need to have watched at least all of WandaVision. You need to have watched all of the X-Men films.
You need to have watched all of it.
And you need to have watched every movie ever made. Like for this podcast, actually.
That's the thing. Because you would have needed to watch to get a full understanding, I think that's what done it for me. Because it's not standalone in that it relies heavily on other things.
I think they do a good enough job of explaining.
They do a good job, but not enough to get first.
I mean, you're talking about it as if it was a really short movie. I was surprised at how short it was going in. I thought it was going to be a 2 hours 20. It was like 2 hours almost on the dot, minus credits.
Do you want to talk about the other cameos as well?
Do you want to list some cameos? Because I want to talk about Ensign Mount as Blackagar Boltagot.
Yeah, you could go for it.
Because I think that's amazing that they took a character from a show that people... The Inhumans is a show that people either didn't watch or hate it.
They generally
There is no one that likes the Inhumans. They either didn't watch it or they hate it. And it's amazing to take that character. And Ensign Mount currently is in the most recent Star Trek series. He's in Captain Pike in Strange New Worlds, which is the most recent Star Trek. He's great. There are some great people in the Inhumans. I've watched the pilot for the Inhumans. I never watched the rest of the
That's
series.
the thing. I remember watching the first episode as well, and it generally was the one of the most awful.
It was
because
so
the
difficult to watch.
CGI is
It's not
so
even
bad.
that. It's so poorly
It's
written.
just so
It's a
bad.
really difficult show to watch.
What?
And to bring a character in the comic accurate
Yeah.
uniform, which is such a silly costume, with the little half moon on his hat. In the show Inhumans, he doesn't really use his powers that much, from what I saw of the show.
No.
In this, he can't talk because his power. I mean, I don't want to sound too much like a nerd, but his power is if he speaks, the sound energy,
the vibrations,
it just rips people up or whatever.
There's a really cool scene. Where Wanda's, when she's evil, she's stopped by Black Bolt, and somebody's like, if you don't, you turn back now because he can vaporize you with just a single word. And then he's like, oh really? How is he going to do that with no mouth? And she uses some magic and
his head just...
then his head
I
explodes.
was disappointed that I bet if this wasn't 12A or whatever it is, Sam Raimi would have done a proper head explosion.
Yeah.
It was a disappointing head explosion,
It was.
I think.
Because it happened internally. The head didn't explode. It just
Yeah.
went,
I wanted a Scanner's head explosion where half of the head flops over his shoulder. But you should talk about the other
the other one.
cameos. Don't do the two women first.
No, I'm going to talk about Mr.
Are
Fantastic.
you really? Okay.
I don't remember the actor.
John Krasinski.
John Krasinski. He plays this cameo of Mr. Fantastic coming in. I like him as an actor and as a writer because he did
And
The
a
Quiet
director.
Place and a director.
On The Quiet Place.
I was disappointed in the fact that Ewan Griffith didn't come
I'd have
back.
preferred if it was you.
I would have preferred if it was you.
I was listening to someone talk about this, and they think the reason, because we reported last week, because we're a proper news outlet, that John Watts left the Fantastic Four reboot due to creative differences. The person I was listening to was saying that the reason that John Watts left is because John Krasinski might star in and direct the Fantastic Four film as Mr. Fantastic.
That'd be kind of cool.
I think that would be quite cool. So
I'd still prefer if it was Ewan Griffith because he looks more like your Mr. Fantastic.
that would have been. I don't think he wanted to come back.
It's a shame though.
Do you think they asked him? Honestly,
I hope so.
If do you think they asked him? He said no, and then they asked Miles Teller. Do you think they did that? I don't think they did
that film
that.
was awful.
I don't think
they're
they
not
asked
asking
Miles
Teller.
And then do you think they asked Chris Evans to be the Human Torch?
That would have been
I
brilliant.
don't think they'd have done that. I think John Krasinski works. Going forward, if they use John Krasinski again, I think that works quite nicely.
So did you want to speak about the other cameos as well then?
Only that Hayley Atwell plays Captain Britain, which is a different version of Captain America. She reprises the character that she played in Captain America First Avenger, and Agent Carter, which I haven't watched. Is supposed to be quite a good show. Can't think of the woman's name. She's James Bond at the moment. She's 007
She's
at the moment.
007, yes, she's there. She's Captain Marvel.
I shouldn't say she's James Bond at the moment. That'll upset a lot of people.
No, she's just 007.
She's 007 at the moment, and she plays Monica Rambeau, which is Captain Marvel's friend, who in this universe became Captain Marvel. And we haven't spoken that much about Patrick Stewart. You should go on to
Patrick Stewart, great in everything I've ever seen him in do.
Yeah.
He's great in this, to be fair, reprising his old role as Charles Xavier.
In a version of Charles Xavier that isn't any of the movies. He's in the 90s animated series Chair.
Yeah.
He's not really playing the Charles Xavier from any of the movies.
Well, he kind of is. You can see he has faith in humanity. I know Charles Xavier always exuded hope in the movies, and you could see Doctor Strange gets captured by the Illuminati of this universe, and Charles Xavier's the leader of it. And you could see he's got that hope that he always brings in.
I wanted to talk about Scott Derrickson, actually, because Scott Derrickson directed the first Doctor Strange. He was an executive producer on this one. And originally Scott Derrickson was going to direct this, and for whatever reason he left this, but he left this with a full story outline. I think a script had been started or a first draft had been done or something, and he had a movie that he was really happy with and that he wanted to make regardless of if Doctor Strange was in it or not. And then Sam Raimi was brought into this, and I think it is very clear to me where Scott Derrickson's script ends and Sam Raimi's begins. We spoke about the scene where they're fighting with music.
Yeah.
That is very Sam Raimi. And the bit where Wanda crawls out of the gong, that's very Sam Raimi.
That was very horror-like. Yeah.
There are some clearly Sam Raimi scenes, but you look at that beginning fight with Gargantos, who is the squid creature at the beginning.
Yeah.
It looks like Scott Derrickson.
Yeah.
It looks like the type of thing that would have been in Doctor Strange 1 is what I mean by that.
It is a good fight scene.
It's a good fight scene, but there is a clear distinction between
the
two fight scenes, I think.
It's kind of like in that Guy Ritchie film, you know how we talk about Arthur?
I've not seen that.
Oh, have you not seen that? Oh, okay. I was going to say, there's a one point where it's Guy Ritchie being the director, but then the other half is another director, so you can see where it's one point Guy Ritchie, a very Guy Ritchie film with music background, because Guy Ritchie's got a very distinctive musical taste as well. In the end, Wanda supposedly kills herself as well, but that's left a bit ambiguous.
In these movies, if you don't see someone's head explode, they're still alive.
They're still alive, that's the thing. You know she's going to have a comeback at some point.
She hasn't finished her arc. At some point, she's going to bring those kids through. It's also brave of Marvel to cast those kids so young, because kid actors, they could
turn out to be little shits.
They could turn out like the one in Harry Potter that went on to be a rioter. Do you remember that? One of the two, I don't know Draco Malfoy's friends in those films.
Oh, I know.
But one of them was arrested for drug possession, and then a couple of years later was arrested for being part of the London riots. And then he wasn't in the later movies. But if you cast young, you risk that, and you risk them deciding they don't want to act, or you risk them child stars. You know,
but that's the thing, because they have such unimportant roles at the moment. They don't say much. They just say a few things.
Yeah, but they've got distinctive faces.
They have, but give it a couple of years and people would have forgotten about them.
Do you reckon?
I reckon so. I mean, I've already forgotten what they look like now. I could watch that film again and
with different actors
and be like, it's the same thing. They're kids.
I mean, they swapped out Hulk.
Yeah, they did. They swapped out Hulk, and you know what I want to talk about? The actors as well. We didn't really speak about the actors. How did you feel? I feel Benedict Cumberbatch.
Are we making silly names up for people as well? We haven't done that yet.
We haven't done that. That's the most important bit. Benedict Cumberbatch.
Is that what we're doing?
Cumberbatch.
We're making silly names, not names that are almost impossible to say.
Benedict Cucumberbatch, then.
That works. Benedict Cucumberbatch.
I think he's terrific. I couldn't say much about him because he plays Doctor Strange. You know when you picture a character, Tony Stark, Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. You instantly think. When I think Benedict Cucumberbatch, I just think Doctor Strange now.
The reason you just said Robert Downey Jr. then is because we haven't watched a Robert Downey Jr. film yet to make up a silly name for him. At some point there'll be canon in this podcast where we have to have a silly name for everyone. No, I agree with you. I think he's great. I like him in show. I saw him in Power of the Dog really recently, which won Best Director at the Oscars, which was a Jane Champion movie, which was excellent. I think he's really good. I think Benedict Wong playing Wong. And while I'm talking about this, you can think of a silly name for that because there's something to be done with Wong and Wong. But I think Wong is such a fun character in all of these films, and he was in Shang-Chi recently. He was in Spider-Man.
What could be a good name?
Wong on Wong.
Wong gone wrong.
Wong gone wrong. That's also really difficult to say.
Wong on Wong.
And he's great in Sunshine. I don't know if you've seen Sunshine.
I haven't.
I'm going to be the guy on the podcast that keeps recommending Sunshine because not enough people have seen Sunshine.
Is that the
one where they go to the sun and they're trying to harness energy from the sun? And Chris Evans is in it, and Cillian Murphy's in it, and there's another ship that was out, and they go and dock with the other ship. And
is that the one where the guys turn evil?
Someone turns evil,
and they start killing people.
They get sun madness or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Basically, every Danny Boyle film is underappreciated.
Oh, fair enough.
Apart from the ones that are very highly appreciated, like Trainspotting or Slumdog Millionaire, which are very well rated films. But I think most Danny Boyle films are underrated.
They're always hard hitting films as well.
127 hours. Sunshine's excellent. I love The Beach. People don't like The Beach. You've seen The Beach, right? Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh yeah.
Tilda Swinton. I love The Beach.
You know who's also a good actor? I'm just gonna Elizabeth Ollie Olsen.
All of the third Olsen sister.
The third Olsen
That's what because she is.
I was going to say she's the oldest out of them as well.
I know.
Yeah,
Mary-Kate and Ashley and Elizabeth. Why was she not Mary-Kate and Ashley and Elizabeth? Why were they? I think it's
because those two were twins and they were
she
famous.
Looks the same.
She does look very similar.
So why? Maybe it's because they didn't want to have to pay 3 girls. They want to have to pay 2.
So the third Olsen sister.
The third Olsen sister's great in this, and she's great in. I've not seen her in much else actually.
No, too fair. I think this is a big break. We'll probably see her.
She's obviously been in things. She's definitely in some Mary-Kate and Ashley films.
Yeah.
The actress that plays America Chavez, I can't remember her second name. I can't remember her first name.
Chittle Gomez. I'm going to call her Mrs. Gomez because I have no idea.
That's why I wanted you to say it.
I cannot pronounce her name. I'm just going to call her Miss Gomez. She was pretty good, but
she was good. She was young as well, right?
She's quite young.
I've never seen her in anything.
I never found her amazing, but she was good.
I thought she was excellent. I'm looking at the stuff she's been in. I've not seen any of this. There's a couple of Netflix shows. That looks like a Mexican produced Netflix show.
Who else is in it? Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams.
She's good in it as always. I think
you like Rachel McAdams.
I only say that because I have a crush on her.
She's not gonna kiss you, James.
You never know. She may be one day when I get famous enough.
Do you reckon?
No.
Chiwetel Ejiofor was in it very briefly as Baron Mordo. There wasn't any Mads Mikkelsen. We like Mads Mikkelsen.
Why would he be in this one?
Because he was in the previous one.
Yeah, but he died in the previous one.
Oh yeah, but we like Mads Mikkelsen. Everyone likes Mads Mikkelsen. He should come back. I thought Baron Mordo was the bad guy in the last one.
No, Baron
Mordo lives, and then he swears that he's going to come and hunt Doctor Strange down, doesn't he? But he never did.
That's the thing. Like the ending of Doctor Strange 1 made you think that he would be the bad guy in Doctor Strange 2.
I don't think they were planning on making this film. It's been, what year is it? 2022. It's been 6 years since Doctor Strange 1. That's a lot of time.
That is a lot of time.
In most circumstances, you would have expected them to make
2 or 3.
Expected them to have a film in the middle of that period. Maybe COVID changed everything, but I don't think so. I think this was originally the plan to do the multiverse stuff at this point. The final post-credit scene is Bruce Campbell just going, it's the kind of Ferris Bueller, it's over, you can go home now type of thing after he finishes punching himself in the face. And we'll talk about post-credits in a second because Charlize Theron's in. Would you want to do that now, actually?
Yeah, so...
I didn't understand it. I don't know who your character is.
I don't know who Charlize Theron is. I might Google it because there's big... But she talks about it being an incursion. So an incursion happens when a person crosses over to another multiverse. The
two universes collide is the incursion. Charlize Theron comes... Well, that I didn't like that there was a post-credit scene there, right? So the film ends. We're in spoilers now, probably, so I can't spoil the last scene of the film, really. And Doctor Strange is walking down the street, and then he has this kind of seizure thing, and he gets a third eye in his forehead.
Yeah.
And because he's read from the Darkhold, he's been taken over by these evil things, and that feels like the end of a Sam Raimi film, right? It sets up what's going to happen about Doctor Strange as a character rather than the film as a plot. And I think that works really well as the ending of the film. And then there's a short bit of credits, and then you just have another scene where he's got the third eye and he's quite happy about having the third eye, which kind of undoes the previous scene. I don't know if you felt like that.
No, yeah.
It undoes all of the hard work the previous scene just did, just to go, I don't really care, I'm just going to go off on my next adventure now. It doesn't do anything about the third eye, which is disappointing.
Do you reckon it would just be like him in a third movie as he's trying to combat that third eye?
Yeah, but it obviously isn't, because he's quite happy with that third eye 30 seconds later. I think it kind of ruins that last scene, actually. And you could have just had the Bruce Campbell post-credit scene.
So apparently her character is called Clea Strange.
I think she marries Doctor Strange later on. She won't be Clea Strange at this point, right?
Maybe. And an eventual wife of Dr. Stephen Strange, so she becomes...
And in the comics, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll do that.
An ultimate successor. Oh, that'd be kind of cool, actually. If they have a love interest in it.
Well, he's already going out with Rachel McAdams. He told her he loved her at the end of this, James.
Well, she's married to another man, you know. So, there was another thing you wanted to talk about.
Okay, just really quickly, right at the end of this, I wanted to talk about the representation. We spoke about it a little bit when we touched on it last week in anticipation of this movie, because Egypt and Saudi Arabia asked for a 12-second scene to be removed. The scene felt longer than 12 seconds when it was in the movie. Did you know it felt longer than 12 seconds?
I honestly thought it was shorter. Like, the only reference to LGBTQ was literally, so America Chavez has her memory or brain scanned and then a memory. And essentially, that scene was her just telling the audience, or Doctor Strange, that her parents were lesbian. They didn't even say, they just showed that this is how my parents...
She just says my mom's.
Yeah, my mum's... This is how my parents died. It just shows them both mums. They don't have a word, really. They just die. So it's not even that...
And from that point on, Doctor Strange refers to them as your parents. So it's easy enough to cut that scene out for foreign releases. It seems like a real cop-out in terms of representation. And she's supposed to be a queer character, but the only reference to her being a queer character is her moms are queer, and she wears a pride badge that can easily be CGI'd on or off depending on if it was there during filming.
Absolutely.
The whole thing feels like a whole PR stunt, like it always is with these things. But it was played up like it was such a big thing, and it's really not again, and I think that's a real shame.
Yeah, it's just played off as not a big deal, and you could easily cut that out, and you could actually cut that whole scene out, and it would make no difference to the movie.
And I think if they were selling this in China, which they're not, but if they were, they would have done.
There's the money man. I wanted to talk about the budget.
James
and
is
how
our
much made.
finance bro, and he's gonna get the money up and talk about budgets and box office, and because we're reviewing this. What time is it, James? It's 6:00 on Sunday. That means it's had basically the whole weekend to make money. And I was hearing that it had made quite a lot of money on the Thursday.
Guess how much it the budget. We'll start with the budget. Guess how much its budget was.
I'm gonna guess, knowing that I read it over your shoulder about an hour and a half ago, that it's exactly $200 million.
So a big budget movie like that is $200 million, and it's made.
Which feels like a lot for what it is as well, right?
That's quite.
I think if you come to me, Marvel, I could make this movie for half that. I could save you $100 million and I could make the same movie for half that. If Sam Raimi writes the script and Benedict Cumberbatch wants to take a significant pay cut, I could make this movie for $100 million.
And guess how much it's made worldwide?
A lot.
229 million so far. So
is that just domestically?
No, worldwide.
Well, that's not too much then. I thought it was more than that.
No, well, it's only been out for a couple.
I mean, that's only the weekend, but I'd heard it was more than that, but I don't. My sources aren't very reliable, so.
No, that's the thing, and it's made quite a lot of money. So 90 million in its opening weekend. That's quite.
I mean, this is the opening weekend, so is that domestically then?
Yeah, domestically. Just a million in North America on its first Friday.
That's impressive.
That is impressive.
That's so impressive. Like opening weekends, I remember when 100 million was a lot of money for an opening weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
That ages me a bit, doesn't it?
I'm old now. It's behind Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Well, that's the thing. Spider-Man used to be the record holder for the biggest opening weekend, and that was Sam Raimi as well.
And that was 102 million.
Watching this, I don't feel like Sam Raimi is a superhero director, and then I remember that he did 3 huge Spider-Man movies.
What?
He feels like a horror director, doesn't he?
He does. That's the thing. Spider-Man 3 is just a cult classic because of all the memes that it brought out.
I think he's a fantastic director.
Yeah, no, he's really good.
I was telling you on the way over about Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah.
I don't want to touch too much on Drag Me to Hell because we're running out of time, but Drag Me to Hell's a Sam Raimi film from 2009. It's a horror, and this woman gets cursed by an old lady she doesn't give a loan to at the bank, and the rest of the film is just her dealing with this curse. It's a lot of fun. I recommend it. Basically, I recommend every Sam Raimi film. That's your homework from this episode, is to watch every Sam Raimi film. The Bruce Campbell thing. So Bruce Campbell gets cursed by Doctor Strange to hit himself in the face.
Yeah.
Which is very Evil Dead.
What would be really cool if they made a reference to Ash, where the person had one hand.
Well, that's the thing. Bruce Campbell is punching himself in the face. The reason Ash only has one hand is because he cut his own hand off because it was cursed. Yeah. And he kept punching himself in the face. So I think that works quite nicely as a nice little homage.
Would be good if he tried to chop his own hand, which he successfully does in the
Evil Dead. What he does with the chainsaw, doesn't he?
And then
I love the Evil Dead. We should do an episode on the Evil Dead at some point. I love them.
Yeah, so after that's pretty much everything with Doctor Strange.
Do you want to give it some kind of rating before we go?
Yeah, we do our famous rating systems. I'll go for my 1 to 10 one. This one I've given a 6.
And my rating is, would I go out in a global pandemic to see this movie? And I have twice last week. But what I'm worried about is that rating is just going to be yes every week because I have. So,
do you want to change it up, mix it up? Would you go...
No, I'm excited for that rating to exist after the pandemic is fully over. And years down the line, I'm still rating something by would I go out in a global pandemic to see it? And hopefully people have forgotten what it was like to live in a global pandemic. And they just won't know.
To be fair, though, we've already started this podcast right around, I wouldn't say the end of the pandemic, but when everyone's a lot more leeway, people
think it's the end of the pandemic.
Yeah,
we still got quite a lot of deaths.
Yeah, we still got quite... But I mean, like, at least there's a vaccine now. Yeah, how would you change your rating system then?
It's going to stay the same forever.
Mine would be the typical... Yeah, I'm going to give it a 6. 6.5. Yeah, solid. It's a solid one, you know. I can't just out of pure instinct, give it any higher. I don't know why.
Is that the end of our review of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness then,
That
James?
is the end of the review. I want to talk about what we're going to go see next week.
What are we going to see next week, James?
I'm very excited for this one. The film with Michelle Yeoh, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It also deals with Multiverse of Madness.
2 Multiverse of Madness films in 2 weeks.
This one seems a bit different though. This one, you know how you're talking about before how this film is different to other Marvel films?
It's distributed by A24, which is a kind of art house company.
Yeah, this is going to be
I say art
completely
house,
different.
This is going to be big budget.
Well,
Like it's not really art house in that art house movies are like low budget. These are big budget independent movies.
How big a budget would you say this one is?
I don't have any information on that right now, but if you talk for a second and Phil, I will find you some information.
No, but this one is going to be completely different. This one seems a lot more bloody, shall I say? A lot more gory.
I mean, you could call it medium budget, $41.2 million, which is still a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, it is
but
a lot of
for
money.
a movie these days, that's
pittance.
It's a quarter of the budget of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
And that's not including the money spent on advertising. So with that...
I've not signed a lot of advertising for this.
No, that's the thing. I hope it does well. It looks good. It's very strange. It's definitely going to have a niche audience.
People are referring it to being directed by the Daniels, because it's directed by two people called Daniel. And I like the idea of just being the Daniels.
And Michelle Yeoh's been in an incredible amount. I think I talked about it last week. She was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. A lot. She's very big in Chinese.
We spoke about James Bond. She was in James Bond last week.
She was in James Bond.
Well, we spoke last week that she was in James Bond. So that's what we're seeing next week.
Yeah,
I'm really excited to see it. I'm hearing
to
such great things. I've heard people rate it as one of the best films they've ever seen.
It's definitely going to have a niche. Like people who just love big budget movies, I probably assume won't like this.
I think this isn't going to make very much money.
It's probably not.
It'll make its money back because it's relatively cheap in terms of movies. But
it's like with, as we discussed last week, Nicolas Cage's one. We loved that one.
That was more expensive though. How much was that? I can't remember.
It was about 90 million.
That's a lot of money considering.
No, but I mean that didn't make its money.
That won't make its money back.
And same with the Northman. I heard quite a lot of people liked it, but it kind
of doing
flopped.
well financially.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I reckon this is gonna be a good movie, but it's gonna flop. I reckon.
I don't know. There's a lot of good word of mouth about this so far.
That's just my prediction. I probably will like it though, but it probably will.
And I think, James, that's the end of the podcast. Where can people follow you on the internet?
Yeah, if you want to follow me, you can follow me at MollyJames1 on my Instagram.
You can follow me, Ronan Williams, at Ronan Williams 98 on basically everything: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I'm not particularly active on Twitter at the moment, but I'm doing quite well on TikTok.
Because Elon Musk took it over, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Elon Musk. But I think that's the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say before we go, or should we just do a farewell to our one viewer, which is me editing in a couple of hours' time?
No, thank you for listening. It's been wonderful.
Thank you very much for listening. My name's Ronan. Your name is...
James.
And you have been a great guest this week on the podcast.
Thank you, but I'm pretty sure that was my line.
That's wizard.